Hello, I'm Bert Oliver, and welcome to this issue of Bowie News and Views. My co-host, co-producer, and was my friend, I hope still is, John Rouse, former editor. Will you greet our guest, John?
Indeed, it's the Honorable Fred Robinson, the mayor of Bowie. But before I embellish upon that, Bert told me I have to explain this T-shirt.
Right.
This is the, it is a bit. These two, by the way, I would point out to you, say the fringe indicates that I'm on the fringe of society, but and a lot of people probably agree with them, right, Fred?
I'd probably get a consensus.
There might be a consensus, but my niece in Edinburgh, Scotland, Amanda St. Clair, sent this to me for the Edinburgh International Festival of the Arts, which just concluded yesterday. So I told her I would wear it on television, and she's among a large number of viewers that we have over in Scotland.
She's just part of our international audience?
She's part of our international audience.
That's right.
But Fred, it is nice to have you here.
Well, thank you.
You know, it's tough to get you. I know you're in a meeting with BG&E, my favorite utility.
They're trying hard. They're
Cough, cough, sputter.
Yeah.
And what I would like, and Bert and I would both like, is to sort of kick off some information that an awful lot of people are not aware of. In seven weeks, perhaps, when the show airs, there is going to be a city election. Can you give us some details of what's involved?
Well, the entire council's up for re-election, mayor and 6 members of council, and the people that are elected will serve for the next 2 years. And the challenge for those next 2 years are going to be significant. I mean, if you look at the national economy and the state economy and how they're both affecting the city, I tell people proudly that we're in fairly good shape. We've done a lot of hard work in the past.
That's not hyperbole.
It's not hyperbole. I mean, it's documented. I mean, some of our friends in Marlboro and Annapolis get annoyed at us when they realize we've got all our bills paid and actually got some money in the bank.
Which is more than they can say.
Exactly. But there are some critical conditions coming down. I mean, just last week we were informed by the state of Maryland that we stand to lose about $2 million in this year's budget because of a reduction in highway user funds and police support from the state. So that means in this budget year we have to make an adjustment to deal with that. So whomever is elected in September is going to start off with some significant challenges. I think we're, as a result, like I said, of the years of planning and scheduling, I think we'll be able to deal with most of the challenges, but they're not going to be insignificant. And it always means that there will be priorities. And when you have priorities, you have choices. And when you have choices, you have some people that like it and some people that don't like it. And the question is getting the right people there that are willing to look at problems from a citywide perspective and balance out those priorities.
If I'm not mistaken, and Bert can embellish upon this, I keep hearing from the candidates you've made the effort, Diane Palangan has made the effort, I know that several others have made the effort, Geraldine and so forth. People are actually surprised there's an election coming up.
Yeah, I've been out walking the streets, handing flyers, and well, the first thing that comes up is it that time again already?
Yeah.
It's that 2-year cycle, which is another question we might want to delve into one day. I'm one of those that believes that we've sufficiently matured to a point where we might want to consider making this into a 4-year cycle.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That's another issue. But yeah, when you talk to people, the questions that come up are about, didn't we just do this? But it's amazing how aware people are of not only where the city is, but where the county and the national economy is at the present time.
They just don't know there's an election coming.
That's it. There are a lot of folks that don't know that the city election is in November.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right, John. We have the same reaction to people. And it's surprising that the people you think should be on the know do not know, because it's not well publicized. And you guys had an adjustment in the last 2 cycles. You had an adjustment to a 3-year term, as I remember.
Well, no, a couple of years back, there was a referendum item that went on the budget prior to my arrival, and it said, do we want to have a 2-year term or a 3-year term or a 4-year term? And because they put so many options on there, none of them got a majority. So the default position was to maintain the 2-year term. The city then we did move the election date from April to November to make a more traditional election posture, hopefully to encourage more participation.
Hopefully, yeah.
And I think last election we got a little better turnout.
What,
than
36%?
Yeah, well, you know, sometimes municipal elections that's
This may be
not
less
bad.
than 10% the way things are going.
Well, the challenge is usually if there's a strong mayor's race, there'll be a big turnout.
Yeah.
But,
Or a referendum question.
or referendum question. But this year, like I say, a couple of the positions are uncontested as we sit here today.
Yeah.
But like I say, you know, I've been out meeting people. I've been up in K and S and in B so far, just knocking on doors and talking to people.
Did you avoid my door? I did.
I've intentionally avoided your door.
I thought you might have.
The dogs scare people away.
Yeah.
Oh, so maybe that was you.
That was me, just doing the law.
No, we'll probably be down your way.
Well, you can tell you've been around a while when you refer to Kenworth as K-section.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the Levitt section, everybody, but it's funny that you mentioned that. I was talking to some folks the other day, people that have moved in. I had one lady reminded me that, we still haven't gone around to naming something in the city for Bill Levitt. A Levitt Park or
Levitt
a Levitt
Town.
Driveway. Yeah, but that's in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. But it just shows you that people still recognize the Levitt community and the K section, the B section. If you've been here for more than a week, you understand that.
Yes, indeed.
Well, it's obvious, and that's why I mentioned it, because a lot of candidates don't know that it used to be referred to that way. We had friends that came from Florida, and they stopped at a location near us, and they said, "Oh, they're in the M section. You go down here and turn right on." He said, "What is the M section?" Where do
Well,
you
it is
see
confusing
something that says the M section?
to outsiders when they come in. They realize that every street in a particular neighborhood begins with the same letter.
Sure.
And sometimes it makes sense because you might have an MA and an MA and and then an ME or something. But then sometimes you'll go where the letters don't seem to make a lot of sense.
I always wanted to live on Media Lane.
You should. You should.
Well, all the other journalists got them first.
Yeah, I got it. I got you.
I'm going to ask you a point-blank
Sure.
question, too. Do you think that this approach in election is being adequately covered by our local media?
I haven't seen a lot of attention.
Yeah.
I would like to see a lot more.
You have seen a lot more in the past.
Oh yes, in years past, you probably started seeing a lot more profiles of candidates and discussions, and quite frankly, probably more letters to the editor and stuff like that. Haven't noticed a lot of that yet. And like you said at the opening, I think we're 7 or 8 weeks away from Election Day, which means we're 3 or 4 weeks away from closing of the voter registration and closing of So if you're not registered by October the 2nd, then you're not even eligible to vote in the election. So, and if you want to be a candidate, October 2nd is the drop dead date.
Well, one of the other things, John, in the past we've had council people on, and that's one thing I remember asking Ike Trout one time, what is the area you cover? And he gives me all these border streets. He's pretty familiar with it, and I'm sure everyone else is. But
well, who lives there anyway?
Who lives there? But there's one thing I mentioned to him and others as we talked, and I said, do you know about when you're door knocking, if you're on a street that has a sidewalk, what we always knew was a certain point, it started and ended was the main intersection. And all the other areas do not have a sidewalk, most of them.
Well, the interesting thing
Why
for
don't
me,
we have a sidewalk, they say?
Well, the thing for me is, when you're out walking by yourself, you go up the odd side of the street and come back down the even side, and then you hit the streets that cut off. So you might hit, on any given street, there may be, 40 houses, 40, 50 houses, and then if you hit a couple of side streets, it's the same thing. And most of the streets, obviously, in Kenilworth all have sidewalks on them, but in the Levitt section. But it's relatively easy to figure when you remember, right? Rockledge and North is District 1, basically Levitt is District 2, Newtown Center is 3, and Point Ridge, Amber Meadows area is 4. And then you have the 2 at-large district. I mean, you remember well when at one time we had individual councilmanic districts where everybody had to run at large. And that became a legal question, an inquiry. And the council, on its own initiative a couple of years back, initiated an inquiry on that. And we looked at the law, we looked at the court decisions, and we made the decision that it was prudent and appropriate to go to a more
Sure.
different kind of thing. And that's how